Antisemitism is on the rise, and that's not news. We are seeing the transformation of hatred against the Jews for one of several reasons transformed into a socially acceptable and palatable almost reality that we're just supposed to accept and live amongst. Every single organization or community that you hear of is trying to fight it, but nobody seems to be succeeding because this trend is growing. What we are seeing is a lot of internal competition happening in terms of how we are supposed to do it within the confines of the social space that we are being given, where we live in our businesses, in our communities, in our even congregations. We're given specific confines about just how much we're allowed to talk about this problem of Jew hatred that has been rising everywhere around us. And because it's based on the modern day transformation of an ancient hatred against Jews, now the public Jew, the state of Israel, becomes the reason why we can say, well, it's those Jews, it's not me. It isn't really hatred of all Jews. It's actually just because of this reason or that. But we see more and more that that isn't the case, and that actually hatred against Jews is uniting people and becoming a cause even for social justice movements. As those of you who might have seen at the University of Michigan, a rally for the so-called justice in Palestine, a completely fabricated exaggeration of what is actually lived within the areas where Palestinian Arabs continue to live under Palestinian leadership and under the leadership of terrorist organizations. Those movements have infiltrated campuses, but they're also infiltrating workspaces and they're infiltrating high schools. They're going into spaces where nobody knows how actually to respond, and that's the biggest problem that we're seeing. How does one respond to what happened most recently at the University of Michigan when a banner held at one of their weekly, monthly, whatever it is, rallies that truly demonized Jews and Israel all in one sentence, holding up a banner that says there is only one solution? Well, that is where they show their true colors. And that is where we need to pick up ourselves and our communities and our friends and our family and stop avoiding the uncomfortable conversations because Israel is so controversial. I don't want to talk about it. Let's leave that out of our space. It's about time that we take ownership of our own ancestral story. And it's about time that we try to separate our politics away from what we actually know and think about the reality on the ground in Israel. And of course, the only problem is in order to do that, you have to know the reality and not the lies that are being spread. Dozens of news outlets, dozens of resources and organizations and companies are at work, very hard work, trying to make a change and respond. We see some amazing activism, of course, from Stand With Us, who everybody knows leads the way in terms of much of the advocacy work that has to be done and is being done on campuses and in communities. But we also see students supporting Israel, who has been the only organization so far to create a campaign that responds to this very extremist call for yet another final solution: a murder of the Jewish state, a murder of Jewish existence, a murder of Jewish presence in the world. The calls are not a political ideology somebody needs to feel aligned to because they are left, right, Democrat, whatever Republican you might want to call yourself to be. This is the time where we need to put our politics to the side and we need to be able to address anti-Semitism and not just claim that we're all fighting it. You know, those of us who are invested in communities are trying to reach the individuals. I just finished a conversation with a woman who works at a very reputable business and is looking for a program on anti-Semitism awareness for her company. We have the potential to reach thousands and thousands of people, but you know what? You know what's not being done? The funding of those who are fighting anti-Semitism with real people. It's almost a misnomer. We're watching the news take place in front of us. We don't always know how to respond. We're doing our best. We are getting the IRA, the definition of anti-Semitism, accepted in countries and by schools and states and other groups. But is it being employed? What are we doing to fight anti-Semitism in our own environ, in our own space, in our own minds? What are we doing to be able to empower others through our understanding and respect for the Jewish experience of hatred? It is a very unique hatred. And if you have any questions about how to address this hatred, how to identify this hatred, that's when you reach out to the people who you know best or who you feel could perhaps explain it in a way that makes it palatable for you and also for those who are so convinced that their anti-Semitism is legitimate. It's logical because they've been told some exaggerated lie about the behavior of the Jews in Palestine. This word that has co-opted every single conversation leaves every single individual random person totally incapacitated from knowing how to respond. So once again, we find ourselves in our ongoing discussion of how to make a difference in the fight for Jewish rights. Whether you're Jewish or non-Jewish, it's about human rights. And today, we're trying to address that topic of anti-Semitism. And if we're all saying that we're fighting it, what is it that we're really doing? And how much more could we be doing? There are many resources out there, and maybe it's as simple as sharing some truth memes on your social media networks, or maybe it's as important as having the conversations that really aren't comfortable to have, but also knowing how to respond to the kind of charged comments that are inevitable to come up in those conversations. These are the difficult conversations, whether you're at a Shabbat table or a Sunday lunch with your family after church. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you've come from your prayer service at your local mosque. It doesn't matter what your faith is, and it doesn't matter what your politics are. We're living in a time where Jewish existence is threatened, and it's threatened in a logical way. And it's about time that we all take responsibility and do something about it.